Welcome to the Intercut podcast live from the Sundance Film Festival, the yearly show where we talk about the best movies we saw in Park City. This year at Sundance, Rye Lane made us fall in love. Theater Camp made us miss our counselors, and Julie Louis-Dreyfus hurt our feelings.
We had everything from comedies to thrillers to horrors. There was movies about teens overdosing off demons to a grandma getting jiggy with sexy Jesus.
As always, I'm your co-host Zachary Shevich, and joining me, cottage cheese is in his top 5 cheeses. It's Arturo Zurita.
Excited to be back at the Sundance Film Festival. This is the category of a bunch of movies that people who think that it's all the pretentious, snobby stuff. We got demonic demons. We've got, I don't even know what to call some of these movies. There's a sexy Jesus movies in this as well. This is probably the most exciting list of stuff to cover because it's stuff in the next category, midnight category, and all the new premieres that have been coming out. Yeah,
this is the genre recap for Sundance, all the best horrors, all the best comedies, all the best sci-fi, whatever. We are putting them into this version of the recap, and we had to bring on someone who we caught using the stick, Amanda the Jedi, for this recap. Are you excited to get into these movies? I think this is where we had the most fun at Sundance.
Yeah, some of my favorites were in the last category, but I'm very excited to talk about a lot of these ones. I just need to point out, though, that cottage cheese isn't a cheese.
It's a curd, yeah.
It's a
I
curd.
Googled it.
It's a curd.
Anyway, we're going to talk about a lot of the favorite films out of Sundance, but if you're looking for our analysis on the drama films, on movies like Past Lives, on movies like 1001, and on some of the award winners from Sundance, you can also head back to part 1 of this recap, or stay tuned for the next part of the recap where we'll do documentaries, spreading this out. Don't want to give you like a 5-hour podcast where we're breaking it up and talking about genre movies here. Let's get right into it with our possibly favorite among these. We're ranking them loosely, although there's some movies that maybe should be a little higher, some a little lower. It's a loose ranking of our genre favorite.
For sure.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Nicole Holofcener's new film with Julie Louis-Dreyfus, Tobias Menzies, Michaela Watkins. This one's called You Hurt My Feelings, and it's about a New York novelist who has a happy marriage to her therapist husband, but one day overhears that he hates her new novel. Arturo, I think this is one of the ones that I was really excited about because
very excited.
Nicole Holofcener is a really good writer and has made some really good films. She's somewhat recently participated in the screenplay for The Last Duel. She also previously worked with Julia Louis-Dreyfus on the delightful romantic comedy Enough Said. What did you take away from her take on difficulties in happy marriages?
I feel like you're a bigger fan of Dreyfus than I am, but I respect her. She's on a league of her own at this point where it's like, I mean, if you're in Alone from Seinfeld, you got Veep under your belt, you're just doing whatever you want in the Marvel series now.
She won several Emmys for The New Adventures of Old Christine, and that's something that people don't even bring up, so that she has so many other things on her resume. At that point, this is a person who I always told Alina when she was on the Letterman thing where he retired and then unretired himself, the pockets of conversation that they get into is next level. And this was the one screening that we've been talking about. We were in, we were out, the Q&As were clean. Michael J. Fox was there as well.
Yeah.
Great moment.
It was a really great screening by professionals. This is a comedy done to a T. They are making jokes where they don't care if you laugh or not. It's not on them, it's on you to see if you even recognize what they're working with. It's a great ensemble. Everybody works really well off of each other, especially because they're close friends or they're related. But they get into these pockets of different things. Yes, there's the, oh no, my husband did something and I feel sad. But it's the ripple effects of how that comes from the mother. How she imposes that on the sister.
How it affects the
son.
Yeah.
That's the best one. Owen Teague, I've been saying, I'm not going to forget this boy's name from now on. He killed it in it. But so did everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really great ensemble, not just the leads, but even some of the people who show up in smaller roles. There's all the different clients that Tobias Menzies sees as a therapist, some of our favorites like Zach Cherry. They have David Cross and Amber Tamblyn playing an unhappy married couple, which is also very fun.
Yeah.
I just thought this was so lovely and funny and well observed because it really feels true to life. It is about this very happy marriage and these kind of like little white lies we tell to get through our relationships and smooth over things with the people we love. I've been calling it kind of cozy force majeure because it plays on the same kind of like anxieties, but it's so warm and it never really feels like their relationship is in kind of some existential trouble. Just it's unsure how they're going to work through it, how they're going to resolve it, and the way they do is just through through being very lovely and being very nice to each other. Like it's a movie that has complications but doesn't get awkward or super uncomfortable with those complications. Best of all, I just laughed a lot.
Me too. It's hilarious. It was super fun. She was great in it. And it really is one of those things. It's like it's an insecurity that so many people can relate to in some way, and it doesn't really have a clear defined answer as to what the best choice would be.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people who came out of this film feeling it's nice, it's good. I kind of feel like it's a little bit more than that. I think it's just so feels so true and feels so good and is so enjoyable to watch. It's an easy recommendation. I feel like it's one movie that pretty much any audience would respond to.
Hour 33.
Yeah.
Very easy.
Tight.
Yeah. I just think it's really a gift to get these kinds of movies. So I enjoyed this one. I want to make sure it was high on our recommendations list. So we got it here at the top of our comedies at least.
And this is also coming out, if I'm not mistaken, by A24?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
one of the A24 movies in the
that's
festival.
a good release. Hopefully you don't have to wait that long.
Yeah.
Another movie that is with A24, although it's one that they picked up here at Sundance because they saw it too and they knew they had something special on their hands. It is Talk to Me, the new film from Danny and Michael Philippou, the Raka Raka Boys on YouTube.
A good YouTube movie of the fest.
Yeah, it's a good YouTube movie of the fest. Their videos are very uncomfortable and messed up, and they've clearly channeled a lot of that energy into this exciting horror movie about a group of teenagers who use an embalmed hand to conjure spirits and then get hooked on the thrill.
Yup.
There's so much to dive into with a movie like this and the ways that it plays on young people and social activities, and especially the posting and popularizing of those like trends through social media videos, the daring nature of it all. But I think the thing that we all responded to was just how viscerally we felt the horror of this film.
Yes. I watched it when you guys saw Fair Play, so I was here alone. And I was like, I went upstairs to do something. I was like, I'm going to go back downstairs now. Like, it's just one of those, and the ending, like, I can't tell you what happened, but it commits in a way that you're like, oh my God, when you realize what happened. So if you're looking for the visceral experience of the festival, like, this is the one. This is the one that's going to have those scenes where you're kind of like, oh God, oh my God, oh God. There's one scene, I actually couldn't look at the scene. And that doesn't, and that's the best part, because if you're not into that kind of stuff, you just don't look at the screen, but you're still, swept into it. So I easily recommend.
Even if you don't look at the screen, the sound design is freaking
disgusting. I know! The whole time I'm like,
there are whips, there are pans, there are squishes, and it delivers. This is one of the best horror movies to come out. We've been getting a lot of great horror movies. In January. I don't know what was up with the studios, but they were actually blessing us. They have blessed us with something bigger here. You said A24 picked it up, which is great for them.
It is.
But it's better for A24 because they finally have a legitimate hit on their hands. It's already premiered at places, so we already knew it was going to be good.
Yeah.
But we saw this at home. And we wanted to be in a theater so bad. Like, it's coming out at South by, and that's where we want to rewatch it. It's a movie where the camera work just
it's so good.
It just impacts you. There's a really good making of in the behind the scenes.
Some clips in it.
Yeah, but
so
on top of that, you just have a solid story. It's not just the teenage angst of it. You also have these kind of like ripples of characters who have baggage that is now kind of intertwining with this, ritual. But the lore is just sick. This is something where you don't need a sequel. It's perfect on its own. Where you'd be dumb to not want to do a follow-up of some sort. So Talk to Me, easily one of the best of the fest. Yeah,
it is a nasty film. It is a film that is pretty mean, but in a way that like is you feel and it is exciting in a twisted sense.
Yeah, like I'm fidgeting thinking of certain scenes right now. I'm like, oh my gosh.
A lot of anticipation too, because they get to a point where they don't need to show you the violence. They just know. Like, there are certain points where the characters are seeing something, they don't have to show it to you, and that almost makes it scarier because they went all out on the previous one. They're really good. They're really smart.
Yeah.
The fact that they came, as Zach was mentioning, I had showcased to him the Ronald McDonald clips, and I'm only playing like a little bit because we scared a lot of people with this. It is some of the creepiest stuff about Ronald McDonald just gone wild.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that there. Y'all can search that up. If you've seen these guys on YouTube, it is, I commend them.
6
Congrats on making it. Not just the Sundance, but with an actual great film. Not good,
Yeah.
great.
But the thing is, like, you can tell they're filmmakers, right?
Yeah.
They're it's not just a story or just an attitude. It's every element of the production is really working
So
really
good.
well. The makeup in this movie is extremely creepy and extremely effective.
We
Oh,
can
it
tell
is.
about that. it's great all around. Dude.
Yeah. Yeah, no, just touching on the A24 thing, this is like not the type of movie you would typically expect them to pick up. This
It's
seems
not their
like,
elevated horror.
yeah,
whatever.
exactly, and I think again that's good for them.
They take a movie, they oversell it.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to undersell it.
Yeah.
Yeah, all really excited about this movie. Hope it gets into audiences' hands sooner
Number
rather
2
than
on this
later.
list, baby.
go.
Yeah, it's definitely the best horror movie we saw here. So
Yeah.
talk to me. Keep that one on your radar. Another one that absolutely should be on your radar, not only because we loved
my
it,
goodness.
because it's going to be out in March.
Yes.
It's going to be
Oh.
available very soon.
Woo.
Let's talk a little bit about Rye Lane, the excellent film written and directed by Rain Allen Miller about Yaz and Dom, two 20-somethings coming off of bad breakups who connect over the course of the day as they walk throughout London. I've been describing this as Before Sunrise meets Edgar Wright, because you have that genuine kind of like sweet romantic comedy element, but it's got this like quick cut nature to it. The jokes come at you a mile a minute. There's gags and fantasy sequences and all sorts of like visual creativity in this one. And to me, it's a real showcase for its director, Rain Allen Miller, who he's not only very funny on the page because the jokes in this really hit, but it shows like an ingenuity in how she presents stuff. There's like most of this film is shot on like a fisheye lens, but it doesn't really look like weird and stretched out. It kind of just accentuates the visual style of it. There's also these moments with the like split diopter that she uses effectively.
She killed that.
it.
Dude. We're always looking for the stitching, and we did the rewatch when we came back. Clean.
Absolutely.
Nice.
And I mentioned in one of the Q&As that she was influenced by Roy Anderson, the guy who did About Endlessness and
Okay,
Pigeon
yeah,
City.
yeah.
You would never think that.
You wouldn't.
But like you can see it when you hear it, because there's all the way she fills the frame with jokes and different ideas and little bits. I just thought this was like the most exciting comedy that I saw here, even though I really like loved and connected and responded to You Hurt My Feelings.
Yeah.
This is the one that makes me just like want to tell everybody about it.
Yeah.
Now this was overhyped to the.
I got really worried we were overselling.
It was the last one that I saw. So usually, you know, I'm on pace seeing them. This I saved to the last day that it was possibly playing. Fisheye tends to look so ugly, or it's disorienting. They made it look like a carousel of London.
Yeah.
Like you're just going through these different figures. There'll be stuff that's happening in the background. There's stuff that's happening on the side. Nothing too big. It doesn't go as intricate as like Babylon does.
No.
But nonetheless, it feels like, we've been saying this phrase a lot, a lived-in world where these two are just trying to make it. The humor in here is fantastic. There is one side character. The two leads are great. I specifically like Yaz's character and Vivian, who plays her, great. But it's the buddy. Y'all remember the buddy's name?
Shoot, I don't.
The friend absolutely killed it. He had no business being that funny. There is a dinner scene that you're going to want to immediately watch after the fact.
Yeah.
He had no business just coming up with quips on the fly.
But that's another thing that is so great about this film, is that like a lot of times, especially in a comedy, it's the leads who carry it. And yes, the leads are great. Shout out to David Johnson, who I think is great on Industry in a smaller role. And also shout out to Vivian Oparah, who I had no idea about before this film, and now I love. But, you know, people pop up in these small roles or these one-scene roles and are hysterical, too.
Yeah.
So it's a credit not only to, you know, Rain Allen Miller, but also to all these different actors who are very, very excellent in this.
Yeah, this one also was just one of those ones that we saw it at a press screening, and even the press responded. It was just rare. They clapped.
That's the best review that they could give me, is like, bro, even the press screenings, because they know I hate press screenings.
Yeah. Because people walk out, they're bored. It was a really special
it's
experience.
brisk. It's 82 minutes, and it's going to be on Hulu, of
Yeah,
all places. If you get the chance to see it in the theater, our theater was also hooting and hollering.
People are going to respond to it. The jokes really work.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Plus, it's BBC and Searchlight, so without a doubt, it's going to get a nice release. And hey,
Nice.
maybe every 10 years we get a new Rye Lane.
Yeah.
I love that.
I love it.
All right, so Rye Lane, a definite recommendation from all of us. We'll go from one of the funniest movies of the festival to another one of the funniest movies in the festival. Talk a bit about Theater Camp, the film that is co-directed by Molly Gordon and Nick Lieberman, also co-written by them with Ben Platt and Noah Galvin. This one took home the U.S. Dramatic Special Jury Award for Best Ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
Easy to see why, because not only all those names we mentioned, but people like Jimmy Tatro, who's hilarious in American Vandal, Patty Harrison, who's hilarious in a lot of things now, Ayo Edebiri, who a lot of people probably know from The Bear, Amy Sedaris, so many funny people in this film.
Great cameos.
About the founder of a theater camp, about when the founder of a theater camp falls into a coma, and the staff who work there, working with her broy son to try and keep the camp afloat. I think we all just were really swept up by this. One of the ones that we were lucky enough to be at the world premiere of.
Yep.
And the house was torn down by this movie. I think this was the one that had the best in-theater reception of any film I saw this year at
For
Sundance.
sure. Oddly enough, I had a man who seemed just a little bit too old, maybe a lot of bit too old, sitting next to me. So I don't know how into it he was, but he got into it at times. You know,
Good.
I also
Which is
had
good.
an old dude who just went.
yeah, that's what I
He
mean.
just
It's
snoozed.
and I don't think you have to be a theater kid to enjoy this. I know a lot of people. I think it helps if you at least have familiarity. But like I was like the rock camp kid, and like I love this movie. I think that it has a similar vein to it in a very fun way. But it's another really hilarious one. It's one that does a really good job setting up bits throughout the movie that then pay off in huge ways at the end. The music itself is actually really good, which is a huge thing if you're going to have any kind of musical presence. Like you need to have something that actually connects and is good. Otherwise, that's half of your anything gone. Your oomph is gone right there. But I think it tackled a few different levels of relationships, and then the kids are just awesome at what they're doing. I don't know. I thought it was so fun. This is the one
It's so lovely.
Yeah, some people here have watched it like 3 times. You know, I've watched it
We
twice.
have it queued up to watch.
We got it queued
again.
up to watch again after this is done. Like, it is fun. We've all been like walking around singing some of the songs, and like we just
Which
can't
is earworm,
stop.
Dumb stuff, bro.
Yeah, it's dumb stuff, but it's
Yeah.
so good.
She on the stick, bro. That's my goal.
Yeah, I know she's on this.
And-
I think this is the case with a lot of comedies, and that maybe the first time you watch it, you see some of the seams in it, the places where it could have been a little bit cleaner,
Yeah.
places where maybe the story doesn't fully feel like it works, and then you just like take away how hilarious it was, and you go into it just for those jokes. And,
Yeah.
and, like I know this movie has grown and grown in my estimation since I first watched it.
I think I liked it more right off the bat compared to you.
Yeah,
like I was in it right from the go. I was laughing so hard.
I mean, it'll
so
win you over.
It wins you
yeah.
over, but
But I think like it's very easy to sort of like put down a comedy as not as missing some elements, and
yeah,
those are the films that tend to grow into the cult classics.
Yeah,
of
that's
the
true.
Really remembered films. So.
because half of it is, I don't know how much of it is improv. And they were talking about how long they had to edit it.
Yeah.
The shooting style is crazy. It's almost like a miracle that it's cohesive.
Yeah, it feels a lot like the Christopher Guest movies. It's not like the Judd Apatow style of improv.
No.
where you're just
No.
But I'm
throwing out
okay
jokes.
with that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
No,
because a lot of the scenes in a Judd Apatow movie is like, right, here's the beginning and here's the end. Find a way to get there.
Yeah.
Here it's like, I don't know if they knew where they were going, but they somehow found an ending.
Yeah.
And that's a big premise in the movie. That
Yeah.
idea of it almost seeming like it doesn't know where it's going, and it doesn't feel like they wrote themselves out of it. It feels like it organically happened.
Yeah.
That's why the improv really works on the finale. So I highly recommend it.
Yeah, Theater Camp, easily one of our favorites of the festival.
Some of the best
Absolutely
songs of the
hilarious.
festival.
Yeah.
And that ending also just really, really works. It was maybe the first movie that I felt like up a little bit. Like
No,
it's
it's
not like a
just-
sad ending. It's
No,
just
but
like
it's
crazy.
like-
It feels triumphant.
It's a triumphant
And it's the
ending.
best example of like you need to finish these movies because like you were right off the bat. It's been growing on you. I was like, all right, this is solid. But what they pull in the last act, bro, on fourth down is incredible.
They literally turned something that I didn't think was funny into something I thought was hysterical.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's
Yes.
perfect. Also
Yeah.
mention the Q&A. We'll be mentioning it later.
Right.
But one of the best premieres because when we were purchasing tickets, we couldn't get this.
Yeah.
This was like a goner. There was no way we were going to make it.
Yeah.
Too much hype.
We were lucky enough to get into the
Sneaked in
screening
there.
and we got treated with something super special.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. A one night only performance of that final performance from the kids in Theater Camp. We'll post the video on Twitter and stuff. But
So good.
it was just such a magical moment, and it'll be something that I think you really love once you get the chance to see it.
Absolutely.
Theater Camp, one of our favorites from the festival. Another film that I know Art responded to.
Yes.
Other People's Children. Not a film that debuted here at Sundance, but did play in the Spotlight section. Art, tell me a little more about this film, which is about a 4-year-old woman in a loving relationship who grows close to her 4-year-old stepdaughter, but wonders if it's too late for children of her own.
Well, it's the story of 4-year-old woman, the 4-year-old stepdaughter. I found it to be beautiful, not just because of her performance, Virginia as a lead, but it's like you're just going through the cycles of her wanting to be able to provide that love, that mothering to somebody else, and the fact that she's coasting through life to a certain degree, the interactions that she has with people, I would put it akin to I don't know if you got to see it, One Fine Morning.
Oh yeah.
Where you're,
okay.
Yeah. So it's like it's closer to that vibe in just following this woman trying to make it through her day. It's a very simple story, but I think it packs a punch because you're just following her on her daily life. But when I first saw the poster, I thought it was going to be pretty cliche, and it wins you over with a lot of heart. So Other People's Children, playing at the Spotlight category, meaning that hopefully there's a release. It's coming from France, and out of the other French pick that we were talking about in the previous movie, this is one I would root for towards the end of the year. I just don't know if it counts, but really solid character study on her.
Interesting, yeah. Curious about this one. Hopefully it'll be out not too long from now. Let's talk a little bit about another one that I know both of you really enjoyed. Mamacruz.
Let's
a film
go.
About
Horny grandma.
Holy Jesus.
A film about a devoutly religious grandma who has a sexual awakening after discovering internet porn. Yeah. I mean, it sounded really fun. It has maybe the best poster of any of the films from the Sundance Film Festival. Not all the films have posters yet, but this one is definitely the best of the ones that do.
Yeah.
But how about the movie? What did you like about it?
You go.
Mamacruz. She was pretty funny in it. There was a movie that went Chicago not too long ago, and also Fantasia. Could be mixing them up, but it was called Merry-Go-Round.
Oh yeah.
And that was also an older woman coming into her sexuality. We've had stuff like X, right, where everyone was so disgusted at the old people doing it. It's been an interesting topic to see people discuss, because I don't know if y'all know this. We're gonna grow old too, so I'd rather them do the shift before we get there.
Yeah.
And this is fascinating because the director herself, Patricia, she does a lot of documentaries, if I'm not mistaken. So her look at this was from a documentarian point of view, but she wanted to make it a narrative.
Yeah.
She said she stumbled upon a picture of her mom, and it did not look like it was way too frisky from what she knew her. And she said at that moment is when she realized something that I think everybody realizes at some point. That's that your parents are also people.
Yeah.
And just the way that she dives into it, I thought was pretty special. Really good cinematography. Very good especially when you're following her guilt and in Catholicism, what you do when you're feeling very guilty.
They're lighting the candles and everything.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, and then honestly just like the advocating for her own sexuality and like how she has, needs and desires and stuff and how that's okay, and it's just another one that's just an interesting look on a topic that isn't explored enough, or if it is, it's usually as the butt of a joke.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm very curious to catch up with that one. That's one I'm hoping we'll still be able to catch in a couple days.
Sure.
We'll talk about it more on the pod at some point, I'm sure. Another film that we'll talk about more at some point. Amanda has got a lot of words coming on this one on her own channel, but Infinity Pool. It made its debut at Sundance. We got the unrated cut here, and we get before everybody else gets it, the regular cut in theaters, I guess. The film about a couple staying at a luxury resort led by a mysterious woman into a world of violence, hedonism, and untold terrors is the new film directed by previous Sundance veteran Brandon Cronenberg. I think we all really responded to the last film of his we saw here, Possessor.
Fantastic.
This film has a lot of similar things going for it, a lot of other things that are maybe a bit different tonally, but it's certainly a striking movie. Amanda, you've seen it now twice.
I have seen it twice.
So what is your perception after 2 watches of this film?
I liked it more the second time. Brandon's movies have a very specific feel and vibe to them, and if you respond to that, you're going to like it. So that's good. This one, where I found the Possessor was more viscerally graphic. This one ends up being more sexually graphic and psychedelic, and that I'm not usually into a lot of psychedelic stuff, so I think it lost me in a lot of areas there.
Yeah, I kind of love that.
Yeah,
We love that bit.
So that's what I mean. So if you love that stuff, you're all in, and that's where me, I don't know, I just start losing.
Yeah.
I don't pay attention as much. So and a lot of there's like 3 or 4 sequences in the movie that kind of go that way, but. There's 2 things that this movie is kind of doing, and one is just this look of like what rich people do when they go places and how they behave and the treatments that they get and the benefits they get. And then there's also this like total deconstruction of this man's like personhood, self-identity, and ego. And that's where I feel it's really strong.
Yeah.
And Skarsgård really just delivers it in the end. And I find that far more interesting than anything else going on, in my opinion. So there's a lot to chew on here, and it's a horror in a way that it leaves you feeling like dread and just bleak.
Yeah.
That's where the horror is from. It's not going to keep you up at night.
It's an assaultive experience, which I think you could say about all of his films, but this one in particular.
And I don't want to call it personal. I know you did a lot of research. You'll be talking about it more spoiler-wise, but Alexander Skarsgård playing almost to a degree a creative, someone who hasn't been able to make another movie and such. There's like a lot of interesting parallels there, especially with the infinity pool, or pool, as we saw with the title. It's got this very Looper-esque feel to it, almost to a degree. And I thought the effects in there, you keep telling me that he's still...
It's practical. It's all practical.
I don't know
effects.
how the hell it's practical, but...
It's practical. He does almost, as far as I'm aware, like everything he like, it's almost all in camera or just like stuff that they put in front of the camera. Like that, he takes extreme amounts of pride in that.
And that to us makes those moments where you're saying it gets all psychedelic really cool, because it's like, but it's special. You gotta, like, it's not just stuff on an editing
it's
software.
Like throwing colors in front of things
on purpose.
And doing things with the lenses. He probably uses a lot of the old Vaseline trick where you're putting the Vaseline on the lens.
So those sequences are just really, really incredible. And there's
they
there's moments in here that I just think are so like the experience of it feels like the swirling chaos that so few movies can really elevate to that level. Yeah, and maybe the movie doesn't sustain that level for the duration of it. Maybe some of the plot stuff feels a little thinner. Its commentary feels a little bit like half of the movies that came out the last year. But I just think that there's few filmmakers who can put that kind of visual energy on screen. Yeah. So I really, really responded to that.
That I agree with.
Maybe there's elements of the film that I respond to less. There's a lot of films here where like you love maybe the parts more than the whole, but I love the parts so much that I think everybody should see it.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah. Yep. But maybe not everybody, because it's also like a difficult movie at times.
2 words. Yeah. Mia Goth, baby. Jamesy! Come on, dude.
Jamesy!
This was the Pearl performance that I think everyone was like hyping up. I was like, I don't know.
I agree.
She's got it here.
Like, that's what I mean. Everybody, like, I'm going to get raked over the coals for this. I don't think she did anything last year worthy of being nominated for Best Actress.
No, but
okay.
I mean, I don't disagree.
Nominated for an Oscar.
I think she did some Best Picture work, but I don't think she should have been. Like, when people are like, she should have been nominated for an Oscar, and I'm like, there are like 4 other women in place ahead of her that need to be there first.
Yeah, I guess.
I love her. And I would have actually preferred seeing her over Riseborough, but I also love her too, though.
Riseborough?
Is it Riseborough?
Riseborough? I don't know. Bro.
Either way, girl from Possessor.
Andrea?
We
don't know. She's a chameleon.
She's a chameleon. I would have been fine with her being in there too, but like this movie, she's fun. She's having a blast. She's going all out, and it's so different from how she talks at like the Q&A. She's like, "I'm so soft-spoken. It's just such a fun."
So somebody I know said that she talks like a British child talking to a cat.
And that's why I know she's acting, because sometimes I watch her and I'm all like, your voice is like an octave or 2 lower half the time when you're acting than when you're talking regularly.
She's having so much fun in this movie.
Yeah, so
her
much
and
fun.
Thomas and Mackenzie in a movie stat.
Dude, I would love that so much.
It's just going to be things for theater kids to pitch to. But yeah, Infinity Pool is really good.
Yeah, it's fun.
Might be worth getting into it with some spoilers at some point down the line.
Yeah, might have to.
Not in this video. Let's talk about a completely different style of film. But the opening night film, the very first film that I saw, and the very first film we all tried to see.
I saw all this stuff.
Sometimes I Think About Dying, starring Daisy Ridley. It's a film about an introverted woman who works at an office and occasionally imagines her own death. However, the new guy at work sparks a different feeling within her. I really responded to this one. I thought it was quite a lovely depiction of introversion, particularly the feeling of it as not necessarily like an unwillingness to participate, but a lack of understanding of how to, like that struggle. I thought the imagery spoke really loudly in this film, whereas the short film that it's based on uses a lot of... It's a good short film. I like it. But it uses a lot of narration to give you the background of the character that maybe because it doesn't have the runtime or whatever, it can't explain it. Here it does all of that visually, and I thought it's really compelling, particularly in the parts where it shows you one image that you've seen before and then places another image on top of that, and the meaning behind that significance. I felt this deeply as somebody who relates to the character, and I think there's going to be a lot of other people who see themselves in the character. Yeah. And so maybe it's not going to be hit for a lot of people. I know it's not going to hit for a lot of people based on reactions out of the screening. Yeah. But the people who really loved it are going to or people who are maybe disposed to love a movie like this are going to really, really love it.
Yeah. Saw it in person. Yeah. The people who this is for saw it online.
Yeah, no, that's very true. That's actually very true.
That's true.
I think also just it's really rare to see a movie that is examining kind of like the idea of like female loneliness in that way, very specifically. It's usually the role that you see given to a lot of guys, and it takes a lot of different ways. But then they still have her kind of acting in the same way, where she kind of lashes out at people when she doesn't really know how to react, and that's something you usually see coming from the opposite side. So it's actually really interesting to see it portrayed here through Daisy.
Also, shout out to the boy.
The boy.
Dave. Yeah. Maraji, I want to say his last name. I've known him from Rami, where he's killed it. He had some really funny sequences, especially in the last season. Standout here as a supporting actor. Really just the almost burst of sunshine that this woman doesn't have. Yeah. Their text messages with each other are just hysterical. They just bring in a perfect deadpan type of comedy. Yeah. That I thought worked really well.
There's a clip from Bob's Burgers that makes its way around on Twitter a lot, where he imagines what his 9 to 5 would be like, and I feel like that's the style of humor that most of this movie is. Yeah. Just that like boring office interaction, the signing of the birthday cards and stuff like that. Yeah. But it's really good. It feels nice and fresh. And speaking not just of Dave and of Daisy, I do think this is one of the best ensembles we have at Sundance. Yeah. There's Meg Stalter, who a lot of people know from Hacks. Parvesh China, who's one of those guys who I never really knew his name, but I decided after this movie I gotta learn it, because whenever he shows up, I enjoy it. Yeah,
he was in Mythic Quest and killed it in that one.
Absolutely. And then also someone who's in the film kind of as a bookend, Marsha Debonis, who absolutely broke my heart
out of nowhere.
Yeah. It's got a deep roster. I think it's really effective.
Yeah, no, it's really.
I think a lot of people are underselling this one. It's really good.
No, I think this is gonna be a hit when it comes out because it does a lot of things right. It's a really great office movie. Yeah, it's like an office comedy and a drama at the same time.
For sure.
It is the definition of when dramedy is not used derogatory. Yeah, this is the best version of a dramedy. Yeah. So I'm rooting for it. I'm rooting for everyone involved.
Absolutely. Let's go from one low-key comedy to another. Let's talk a bit about the directorial debut of Randall Park, Shortcomings, a film about an Asian American movie theater manager grappling with the implications of race and culture as he navigates the dating scene and being separated from his longtime girlfriend. Pretty solid cast in this one. It's nice to see Justin H. Min in a role like this, kind of navigating this somewhat miserable protagonist.
Second time we've seen it this year.
Yeah. He's always being called Ben.
Yeah, he's Ben. But sorry.
Yeah, no. And I just think it's an interesting movie because it doesn't really feel. It has the feeling of a romantic comedy, but not the structure of it. Yeah. And it doesn't resolve in the way that maybe a typical romantic comedy style movie would. Which is
good.
Yeah, and I think it's much better off for it. It's all these little like slices of life, observations that actually feel really true. We found ourselves talking about things and then saying it's exactly like Shortcomings more times than we expected.
Yeah, like
too many times. As you can see right here, we think it's good. It's 3.5, but some people wouldn't think that's a big one.
No.
But it has snuck into way too many conversations. We keep trying to look for bottle openers, and there's a scene in the sequence we keep calling back to.
Yeah.
There's a lot in this that we really like. The thing is that he wears it on his sleeve. Yeah. That was one worry that I had, is that Randall Park comes in and he adapts this graphic novel from the same guy who made Paris District 13. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. Let me put it up here. Yeah. Adrian Tomine. He did Paris District 13 or 13th District. It's on Hulu. Highly recommend it. It's a really good movie. Randall Park adapted something where he added a bunch of his little nuances in there. A lot of stuff that wasn't received. A lot of fourth wall breaking. Even in this movie.
Yeah,
and
I love all the Crazy Rich Asian stuff.
Yeah,
this movie's like he saw that film and went, I gotta get to work.
But then still had the like kindness to have somebody offer up the counter to be like, but what people genuinely like it, not just because of this. And then he's like, well, that's even more depressing. But like, it's still good.
So it's an introspective movie, even when it is a little too much. Like it feels like someone. I mean, it's the main character. He's hounding you. He is a miserable person to be with, and they're not afraid to show you that. And I thought that worked really well because there's been a lot of big climaxes in these movies where they realize, main character gets hit with the idea of it's not whatever else you think it is, it's you. And I thought this one covered it well. I mean, it's got the title for it, Shortcomings.
I think that there's so many movies that don't go hard enough committing to your main character being the problem, so that either they have to come out the other side, but people don't always realize that they've even gone through your journey. I know Scott Pilgrim's a big one. 500 Days of Summer is a huge one. This kind of has similar vibes in areas.
Actually, wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do know
and
exactly.
then 500 Days of Summer just ends the way that people would probably expect this one to end, and it doesn't necessarily wrap up that way, but it's good because it's, this is a reality. People are like this, and it's good to have movies where people are just assholes.
Yeah, I mean, so we've talked about a few comedies that are real laugh out loud crowd pleasers. This isn't that one, but it's satisfying and fun to watch.
I laughed quite a bit,
moments.
and I think the audience
It's got
did
moments,
laugh
but it's
quite
not.
a bit.
It's not the beat
I think
of
it'll
minute.
play different in a crowded Sundance theater than it would in like.
That's fair. Yeah.
And I'm not saying it's not funny because it is, it's not.
It's no you hurt my feelings. It's no theater camp.
Yeah.
It's more just kind of like, that's true.
Yeah, it's a satisfying dramedy.
Yeah, because this one's really leaning on moments where you're like, oh, this is a comedy, and then they start fighting, and no one found that funny.
Yeah.
They're yelling insults at each other, and if you have absurdist, or not absurdist, but if you could be like, that's a really funny way to end an argument, sure.
Yeah.
But they're being mean to each other.
Yeah.
It's very
so you
cutting
go
about
from
its characters.
you're laughing at the beginning of the argument, and then you're like, I'm not rooting for him.
Yeah.
And I felt some of the audience felt a little.
But it also feels like the characters are in a place where you kind of have to be able to call them out on it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it does work in a way.
They do. The best scene in the movie,
Right.
the best line in the movie was cathartic.
Yeah, but again, that's part of why I feel like the movie's not as committed to being fun the entire time as maybe Rye Lane is.
No, that's
which
totally
is not a
fair.
demerit. It's just I'm trying to. That's the tone of it. It's a little more a slice of life.
It's purposely made to move between.
Well,
the
again, I wouldn't say it's as good as a 500 Days of Summer, but it's a similar thing. That'll have moments that are really making you laugh out loud, and then other moments where you're like, oh, okay, now we're going serious again. So
and a good cast. Debbie Ryan was kind of
Really?
decent. In
I
this.
loved Debbie
Yeah, she's pretty
Ryan
good. I
in
liked her
this.
hair in this. She was
And,
really pretty.
Yeah, who played
Tabby
Alice? She did
Gevinson.
really pretty.
Who did?
Who played
Alice?
Alice?
Cherry Cola
Cherry
as his
Cola.
friend.
She was
Cole,
so
yeah,
good.
very-
He's without her. We're not sticking with this guy.
Yeah.
No.
It's as simple as that.
That's what I mean. Because you'll even wonder why she's sticking with him, but it's because she kind of has like some light. She's like, I'm willing to put up with your BS because you're nice with me and I can rag on you and you accept it. But like, she's the reason why you stay on board.
Timothy
with her.
Simons made me laugh a lot.
You have no business being funny out of
It's so
nowhere.
funny.
Yeah. Jacob Batalon gets to do a meta joke.
He gets a little meta joke in there. And then also Sonoya Mizuno. I love seeing her in her proper accent,
Right.
just doing her thing,
Yeah.
playing herself, not an alien or a robot.
So good.
She was really good at it as well. So
Right, Shortcomings, I think we all would recommend that one.
we'll keep bumping up a point every single time.
Yeah, right?
It goes up 0.1 every single time we talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears to the musical comedy bromance Flora and Son, the new film from director John Carney. You might know from his work on Once or Sing Street. He's no stranger to the musical movie genre. Here, it's a film about a young single mother with a delinquent young son, and she picks up a guitar, starts taking lessons with a man on the internet, and ultimately finds that it lifts her spirits and brings her family closer together.
Aww.
We ventured out to the Sundance Mountain Resort.
We
for this one.
did.
This is a fun one.
It was a fun one.
Art, I feel like you were a little skeptical going in, and definitely got won over by the latest from John Carney.
Yeah, dude. I do like Once. I think Once is a really good
Once is
movie.
great. Still my
and
favorite.
it's got
from him.
one of the sickest Oscar performances. I always remember that. They just reunited.
Mm.
We were
All
talking about
season.
that. Yeah, I got an email at that. I'm like, wait, they re-releasing Once? No, they're back together. Begin Again in Sing Street. I'm not a hater from them.
Yeah.
There's something about an audience that if you don't like it a little bit, you all of a sudden become a hater. And I guess that's been my pushback on those movies. I'm happy to say Flora and Son knocked it out of the park for me. They do several things right. One, it's not just a music movie, but he's also venturing himself, John Carney, into different genres that he hasn't.
Mm-hmm.
So it was interesting to see him write some of the songs on here.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? I appreciate this. That means he's willing to make an effort. I don't know. He's probably got some kids who listen to different genres now, right?
Yeah.
But knowing the lead in this is Eve
Houston,
which we've had discussions about.
Mm-hmm.
She was decent.
She was decent. She was real good. I thought she was real great in this. I think that the description, it does end pretty wholesomely and it gets to a wholesome area, but it makes it sound way more wholesome than it is overall. Like, this is like very Irish.
Yeah,
like,
it's got a filthy tongue at
It's
times.
a big filthy tongue.
But it's fun.
She's a bit of a shit mom for most of the movie in a lot of different ways. But yeah.
But I like that a lot from a lot
too.
of the movies this year is that they weren't afraid with Joylyn, Cassandro.
Mm-hmm.
They say a lot of derogatory terms. And I saw people out of the screening. They didn't like it for that reason.
But it's reality.
But that's reality, and you have to get into the uncomfortable to get to those heights. Yeah, this woman is
To
really
the honesty.
uncomfortable. The relationship is through Skype,
Yeah.
and she still finds a way to be inappropriate.
So inappropriate.
But it's good because you
Yeah.
follow the son and you realize, like, yeah, he's a real piece of work, but you see who his mother is, you see who his father is.
Yeah, how does he not have a
And the way that music comes into play, I thought he did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
I really liked a lot of the music.
Yeah.
The rooftop song,
Oh,
The rooftop
so
song is great.
good.
And the rooftop song,
stand out.
It evolved out of a bad song.
the
Or a boring
rooftop
song.
song does the same thing that they do in Once, which is they show you a little bit of the song and then they build on the song and you see it like grow into like a full
so
thing.
good.
And it's magic. It's magic every time you see that.
Yeah.
So
Shout out Joseph.
Yeah.
The most adorable he's been. You were just bringing up 500 Days of
Yeah,
Summer.
I
and you
know.
I feel like I haven't seen him in a really, good role in a minute.
Yeah.
Mhm. This is.
He brought a lot of heart into
He
this.
brought a lot of heart.
Absolutely.
A lot of heart.
So much heart that I was maybe
You
hoping
wanted
for some
something
different
more,
things at the
yeah.
end.
Yeah.
It did end kind of abruptly. I don't know if the movie feels like a full arc, but it's not necessarily like unsatisfying.
Yeah.
It's life.
It's
Yeah.
life.
But
Yeah.
I don't want to talk spoilers about that.
Yeah, I mean, without getting into the specifics, the place it ends, it kind of feels like there should have been 2 or 3 more scenes, and then,
Yeah.
but like, once you walk away from it, it's fine. It's everything you really need
Yeah.
from it. The
Yeah,
songs are really
that's
good.
true.
It's really charming.
Sounds
So,
fantastic.
I think there is still a quality to it that's maybe a little more like made, a little more designed than a Once, which I really feel is just like.
Mhm.
Almost like fly on the wall.
Yeah.
But it's for me, it's the most successful of any of the films he's done since then.
Yeah. No, I really like it.
Flora and Son. Let's go to the film that won the World Cinema
Woohoo!
Grand Jury Prize in
Don't
the
go. Who you were
dramatic
disappointed.
category. Yeah, a little
Every time, but
surprised.
Scrapper?
We have a
Sorry.
meme for this. It was I said put on Crapper. He says Plapper. We say Crapper. We say Scrapper. It's cute, dude.
It's cute. Yeah.
The world?
The world. That's fair.
Yeah, I mean it's maybe a bit of an unexpected winner here, but I mean it's one
cute.
that I think we all at least enjoyed. A film that's about a 12-year-old girl happily living alone in London after her mother dies, and she's forced to confront reality when her estranged father turns up out of nowhere. The estranged father, played by Harris Dickinson, a guy who's
Decent.
been on the way up, really
Yeah.
good in Triangle of Sadness not too long ago. Very good in this one too.
Blonde Eddie in this.
Yeah. Lola Campbell is a discovery though as the 12-year-old here.
Yeah.
I thought she's really adorable.
Yeah, she's
I've
good.
heard people say this is sort of like a G-rated Florida project, and I really see that through their dynamic.
Yeah, a
See
lot of
it?
people are saying Afterson. I don't see the Afterson as much other than
Yeah.
the father-daughter dynamic. There's I think there's one scene at the end where you get it, but I think Afterson's just going to be one of those things that people
shot on
start
camera.
comparing a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's shot on camera. But no, she did great. She was really great. She did like that really good, like kind of like precocious, independent kid. I don't need anybody, and then having to work to kind of like break through her walls.
The one thing I would have rooted for this one would have been editing. That's where I would have been like, yeah, for sure. Because they do a great job of putting you from her perspective.
Yeah.
We noticed some things. I don't want to spoil it. We're like, interesting thing about that character that they seem to not have put or shed a light on. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool to just nonchalantly have it in there.
Yeah.
The fact that they're raising themselves for a little bit of the movie. So you have a lot of these swooshes and edits that
This
really feel-
imaginative.
Yeah, because we've had other movies that we're going to get to where they overdid the sound effects.
Yeah.
This was refreshing to see it be used from the perspective of a child and how their whole world gets turned upside down when you know somebody comes in to live with them. But yeah, it's a really cute movie. I wish it will.
I wish it will.
I wish it will.
Oh, you will. That is really cute.
Let's talk about Heroic.
Oh, Michael Fassbender is producer on that one too, by the way.
Oh, Scrapper?
So
Damn. Heroic.
Right, let's talk about Heroic, the story of a young man hoping to enter the Mexican military.
Yes.
Amanda caught this one, told me there was something that went on with a dog, and
I literally made a "Does the dog die" account for this, and I don't feel bad. I don't think that's a spoiler. I just think that's a healthy warning.
It's a warning.
It's a warning.
It's a warning.
it's a warning that steered me away from the movie. But
And
both
I
of
would.
y'all caught it. What'd you think about the rest of Heroic?
This is where I thought the inspection should have been, and then it's not.
Inspection gets into like a little bit.
It gets into it, and then by the end of it, I literally say
Yeah.
it, and people are gonna get pissed off at me. It's literally like the Marines are like, no, only we can be homophobic.
Exactly.
I don't like that. This commits in every way, and
It's
it
pretty
does
brutal.
not shy away from the brutality. It
Yeah.
is so brutal, and it takes an interesting look at someone who does kind of get accepted by some of the superiors, the higher ups, and has kind of like a streamline that he could just coast and take it easy, but is haunted by the things that are happening around him in this very brutal world, and he's just trying to maintain it together so that he can provide for his family and for himself, and then how that affects him long term afterwards. It's a rough watch, but it's good. It is very good, but it is a rough watch.
Michel Franco, he's done a couple of different things, such as Chronic and Sundown recently. But one of the big ones, don't see it pulling up here, was a movie that kind of has the same tone that this has going on with it. New Order. It's on Hulu from a couple of years ago. This has that same brutality, but it had people disgusted with the dynamics that he had going on, which Mexicans were destroying other Mexicans. Here, I guess because they're just all destroying each other, it gives you a completely different perspective. This is Full Metal Jacket for like the Mexican army. Yeah. And if you know anything about the Mexican army and the cartels, then you've met the Mexican army and the cartels. They're like almost one and the same at some point. But it's 88 minutes, and by the end of it, you feel tired. Yeah. Yeah. So like it's effective in that way. I saw it twice because I had to replay a bit of it towards the end, and it's just a brutal movie overall. Monos is probably the most closest I can think of towards the journey that the kids have to go through. But the worst part is that Monos is uncivilized, and they're supposed to be. Yeah. Yeah. So heroic.
Interesting. All right, one to keep on the radar for sure. Heroic. Film that seemed like the most out there among the Sundance catalog. I think Art is the only one who got around to it. Let's talk a bit about Divinity, one of the films that's produced by Steven Soderbergh.
Yes, sir. And speaking of Monos, it's got one of the homies from Monos. He's in this along with I'm blanking on his name from On My Block, Shorty. Okay. They play brothers in this.
Bella Thorne is in this one too.
And other adult stars.
That's the one Bella Thorne was in?
Yes, and other adult stars are in this as well. Yes. Reportedly, allegedly, supposedly.
Yeah, and Moises getting into some business with some little stars. This one is about two mysterious brothers who abduct a mogul during his quest for immortality, as well as a seductive woman that helps launch them into a journey of self-discovery. I actually don't think Seductive Woman is Bella Thorne.
It's not Emily Willis. Bella Thorne is the other woman trying to beat them to the punch. Bella Thorne, Emily Willis. That's still not the girl who ends up helping them out. That's yet another girl trying to get up to finding who this person is. There is a trailer, so you're able to see some of the crazy stuff that they do in here. It's in black and white, but they surprise you in some ways.
It's the most distinctive looking film of the festival. Sure.
They fight through these sequences of stop motion, almost 8-bit video gaming. But it's Moises as an 8-bit character. Oh, wow. And because it's black and white, I'm not going to say it's seamless, but you're able to go in and out of it so much easier. Right. And it's just a crazy movie. It's that premise up until the end, seeing if they can make it or not to be able to get the solution that they need. But it's interesting. It's worth it. Some fun facts in the credits that I will leave for people to discover. But it's probably the most intriguing movie out of Sundance. There's probably a handful, 3. And this would be at the top of, if you wanted something new, this fits that mold completely. It's in the next category, and this is exactly what I look for in the next category.
Nice.
Awesome. All right, so Divinity, one of the strangest movies for sure at Sundance. Another film that was out there, although a lot more crowd-friendly, at least.
Easily.
got a lot of plaudits early in the festival, although I don't know if we're quite as high on it as some other people. Let's talk about Polite Society. This is one that comes from Focus Features, and it's got a release date in April, so it's pretty soon. Will be available to most people. The film follows a London schoolgirl training to be a stunt woman who fights to save her sister from her impending marriage. Definitely wears its Edgar Wright influence on its sleeve.
Absolutely.
Yes, it does.
In terms of the dynamicism and the quick cuts and the sort of imaginative way that they depict the action. Like it's sort of got this like magical realist energy to it. I don't know if it quite has the sharpness of an Edgar Wright film.
I think it starts there, and then I think there's a big section in the middle that kind of starts losing me.
Yeah.
I do still really walk away feeling very positive about the movie. I think it's because I felt it started so strong. I had such a blast in the beginning, and it's a very interesting story, but who picked this up again? Sorry, did you say Focus Features?
No, they had that
They already
already.
had it.
I don't
That's
even
what
want to
we know
say
we got.
picked up. Yeah.
They got the watermark and everything.
The watermark.
Yeah, I feel like this... I think some people are going to love this. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Carson put it perfectly. He's like, it feels like the most studio-ready movie at an independent film festival. And sadly, he's 100% correct. It's like, it's already picked up. It's got all that going to it.
Yeah.
This is the one where we said the sound effects pack was...
Yeah, every single action was paired with some kind of sound effect, and to an extent it's fun, but after a while you start to like really hear it.
That's fair.
Yeah, I thought it's juvenile, but it's mostly fun. I just think the gag ultimately wears thin. It's gonna be a movie that like will be a big hit with maybe younger audiences. I could see teenagers really responding to it.
Sure.
It's there's no shame in it being geared towards kids. It's kind of a kids movie.
It is.
The way that they're like marriage is like the worst thing that could happen to your sister. Like it's a kids movie.
Yeah,
but it's fun.
It's fun.
Priya was great. She's so over the top.
She was.
It makes me laugh.
I know.
But at a certain point, it's like, all right, go. You do need to chill a little bit. But she did a great job going over the top. And also, we didn't know this. A second Umbrella Academy member.
It was a big Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, and we thought they should have easily put her more on the poster.
They should have done one of the shots. Well, there's shots where they're both like this, so I don't know why they wouldn't have them both together like that.
Because we're not on the marketing team.
I know, but I'm like, why wouldn't you market Umbrella Academy to me? I would have been there for the premiere. I want to see Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, easily. So it's still a cute movie.
I liked it a lot.
I was really anticipating it, and it's not bad, but I thought it was raking up to be something great.
I can see why, because we heard the midnight crowd reactions, and I can see why people at midnight would have been like,
there was an initial wave of buzz that was kind of like, this is doing everything everywhere all at once.
Where'd that come from?
Sam Adams, but
what?
Yeah, I think you can only think that if you weren't a fan.
The spin.
Did the camera go like this? Come on, now.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what I thought it was a lot like? After Sun.
Polite Society, out in April. Talking about most anticipated, the next film we're talking about is maybe the most anticipated film from like the larger crowd around the festival.
We're still trying to get tickets.
Based on the viral New Yorker story, I think it was.
Yeah.
Cat Person. Directed by Susanna Fogel with Amelia Jones and Nicholas Braun. The film is about a college student who meets a 33-year-old man at the movie theater where she works, and how she navigates the potential horrors of beginning to date someone she doesn't fully know. And there's definitely something to be said about this movie as some form of just debate-sparking provocation.
Yes.
It's easily a 5 out of 5 at starting an argument with the worst guy you know.
Yes.
But I think there is something to be said about how the movie does really commit to riding that line of like actions that could potentially, supposedly, hypothetically be explained away.
Yeah.
I think that they're trying to make this point about the experience of being a young woman and introducing yourself to men who are simultaneously a romantic, have the potential to be a romantic partner and be a partner in some kind of horrible, horrific crime. Yeah. And there are moments where that navigating that works, and then there are other moments where I feel like they indulge the fantasy a little bit too much. To the point where it's like, we get what you're going for. You've said this already. You probably said it better.
Yeah.
You don't need to say it again right now.
Yeah. Especially because if you've read the story, you haven't seen half of what they bring into the movie, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I agree with Zach. I like those little bits where they're trying to make it this Rorschach test of like you are actually able to pick whoever you want. Because there are a lot of those movies where people come out from Barbarian, which I thought was pretty clear cut, that it wasn't. And they're like, wow, we can't have the discussion. I was like, I don't think that's the movie you want. This is the movie I think they actually wanted.
Yeah,
they want
it
to
can be a little annoying at
argument.
times,
They do.
but yeah, it is purposely meant to be ambiguous. Even though, I don't know, I feel like the movie does tip its hand to, I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing at this point, without spoiling too much.
Yeah, I just think for me, it really loses it in the third act. I think it does commit in some areas where you understand what both sides of the debate are. It's not, people are going to say there's like victim blaming aspects of certain things, but...
Oh, the conversation's going to be...
Yeah, the conversation's going to be
great.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. But I think it, really just comes down to that anybody can revoke being interested in something at any given moment, at any time, for any reason.
And that was good. That's a great part of the short story. And I thought they were able to cover it well. It's a little annoying at first, but they do this interesting thing of getting into her head.
There aren't movies that really do address this. And so there is a novel aspect to that. It's just that they do eventually kind of like push it past this point where we're having like a real discussion, right? We're getting into this kind of like crazy fantasy hypothetical.
Yeah, they make the stand. They make the like, this is now the like 1% situation.
Yeah, exactly.
Rye Lane, in terms of just the visuals of like speaking to each other, I thought that well. If you remember those theater moments, where they're like building up and talking to each other, the way that she spoke to herself at a certain point was like kind of spelling it out for you, I guess. So
yeah. Like, there's lots of, like, for me, I just think that when it hard pivots, and normally I like when things go off the wall, I just didn't think it served the story that they should have been trying to tell, I guess.
It's crazy at the end.
It's crazy at the end.
How'd you like the cast? Because I thought Nicholas Braun in particular, a guy who
It's perfect.
it feels so Cousin Greg to me every time. I thought he actually really, really worked here. I thought he was a kind of guy that is very common, but not very common in movies.
Yeah.
Just like a regular dude.
We all know this dude.
Yeah.
Way too tall for his own good.
The description from the short story, other than, so his beard was a little too long, that doesn't really happen, but his shoulders slumped forward slightly as though he were protecting something, and that is just, that's Greg,
yeah,
that is him, that's just kind of how he
walks
and stands and kind of carries himself like that. So the casting for that,
they use his height really well.
They use his height super well.
Yeah.
Emilia was good in this too.
She was fine. Yeah,
between this and her having a twofer with
Fairyland.
I think she did a good job.
I like her more here, I think.
I think I liked her more here. She had a lot to work with here as well, but I don't know if any of the side characters, we were really surprised to see Liza Koshy appear out of nowhere in this movie.
Supposed to being like a first or second year university student.
Yeah,
and I was like, Liza.
Was she the TA? I don't know what was going on there.
I don't know.
Yeah, but even Michael Gandolfini, who also had 2 at the fest as well. Yeah. It's very tiny here, not as big as his other one, but his eyes look better.
Yeah.
But overall,
I always like when Geraldine Viswanathan shows up in something, even though her character's maybe a little bit overwritten.
It's way overwritten.
Yeah.
And then she's still
good.
Yeah, she's still good in it.
Yeah.
For such a hefty role. But yeah, Caperson, you think it's going to do well when it comes out? I feel like people are going to eat it up.
I think it's going to do really well on Twitter. I don't know if it's going to do really well in the box office.
Yeah. Honestly, Letterboxd isn't liking it. I know that's not the be all and end all, but like that is actually where I would expect to see the higher ratings. It's at a 2.9.
Oh. Damn.
Yeah, so people aren't loving it. They're not hating it. It's like one of these. It's a perfect bell curve. It's a perfect bell curve on the rating scale.
I'll be interested to see how that gets pushed once bigger people or the public gets to see it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a movie that a lot of people have a chance to talk about because it's a Netflix pickup from even before the fest started.
Really?
My Animal. Yeah. About an outcast teenager in a small northern town who falls for the new girl in town. But as Heather grows closer to Johnny, she's forced to control her animal instincts. This got hype as being the lesbian werewolf movie at the festival.
So I was excited.
So of course we had to send the lesbian to see it.
Yeah, we had to send me to see it. It was like, it's not as, some people hate this. It's not as bad as some people are saying, in my opinion. I do think there's aspects that just like don't really make sense to me. It's also Canadian, and Canada's already produced the greatest like pseudo lesbian werewolf movie in Ginger Snaps, so like we've got it locked down.
History to upheld.
Yeah, this one there's just things that are kind of like weird. I don't know why Johnny would have been like initially even remotely like into gravitated towards Heather as a character. There's nothing about Heather that really feels like gravitational. I don't know what it is. If they had played her more as like the weird person that is just kind of around, I think that would have worked better. But so yeah, I don't know. It does feel terribly Canadian though because of the hockey and just this
she's like a hockey player trying to make it.
Yeah.
They don't want to let her on the team.
It's not even trying to make it. It's not trying to make it. It's trying to make it on the local team. This is probably some little tiny town in like northern Alberta. Like no. Like you aren't going anywhere on this hockey team. This is just how you spend your Thursdays.
Yeah.
Like, but it's good. I think it's got a lot of elements that work really well for it. There's just some things that are so awkward that I just don't know why they made the choices.
I had some trouble buying into some of the aspects of the world, and it's a lot of it felt like things are happening because they want it to go that way, and not because it feels like
that would be the progression. Yeah. But it was nowhere near as bad as what people were saying it was. And
that's probably how we all went into it.
Yeah, I mean, we noticed that also a lot of the initial reactions came from men. And as the letterbox started to fill out, you saw a lot more positive reviews from women. So maybe there's a little bit of that to it as well.
I could definitely see that.
Soon, lots of people will be able to weigh in on it because it'll be a Netflix movie.
Yeah.
A movie that I don't anticipate will end up on Netflix. Sometimes they do pick up those international ones. Sorcery. This film is set in Chile in 1880 and it follows a young indigenous girl as she seeks justice with an organization of sorcerers after her father is murdered by German settlers. Really interesting film. I think we maybe expected it to be a little leaning more into the horrific elements, the sorcery elements, and it is much more of like kind of like an apprentice movie almost, with hints at the darker elements of it. And it also feels a lot more rooted in the history of that point in time. Yeah. I think that I was ultimately a bit let down. I felt like it didn't lead too much. I didn't. The place where it ends felt like it could have been the end of the second act rather than the end of the movie.
It's one of those movies, where it never intended to give you what it tended to hype you up for. But then at the same time, they're not in the midnight category. Right. It's that world dramatic movie that really pushes itself as being this. Because originally it's called Brujeria. She's supposed to be the sort of witch. But it really is a drama. If you go into it looking at it as a spooky, eerie drama, you're going to enjoy it a lot better. It's set up as like this revenge thriller after this beginning act that happens, and you think, oh, she's going to go associate herself with the people who are going to be able to fight off these, German settlers? And it really is a movie where it's getting into the history of Chile. And the more you know about that, you're kind of seeing what he's trying to say here. In which case, are you really rooting for it if you kind of know how it all ends up, right? Yeah, that's the reason why you're making a movie about how the Germans kind of took over Chile, and Chileans don't really look like her. They're a little bit, that technically, if I may, they look a little bit more like this man right here. So, look, he didn't make a bad movie. She said in the Q&A that she pulled a Revenant. She was in the water. She was freezing. So shout out to her. I am rooting for her. That she gave a really good performance, even if the script and the story wasn't as strong as it could have been. But, the more you know about Chile, maybe it'll interest you if you catch a little of the nuances here and there. But more of a drama than a horror. Sorcery.
Cool. Let's talk about Fremont, which is a film that had kind of like a lot of different things going on. So the best I could do in a plot description is it's about a 20-something Afghan translator, used to work for the U.S. government, living by herself in a building with other Afghan immigrants. She also
in LA or New York or something now?
I think it was in LA.
No, they're in San Francisco.
Okay,
Fremont. It's Fremont.
Fremont movie. She also writes fortune cookies.
Well, she ends up in the position of writing fortune cookies, in which she realizes, my life's a little sad. I can't get any sleep. What if I decided to write down my own fortunes? In particular, a message that goes out there that may or may not return to her. We got to see a press screening of this. It is completely shot in black and white, and it has this tone of being very bleak. And I think that's something a lot of people are going to connect with. If sometimes I think about dying is the blockbuster version of depression, this is the true slime dance version of it. It is so awkward at times, but there's two actors in this that hit the tone in a way that I thought was ridiculous. She sees a doctor, this dude. Greg Turkington
Yeah.
was on one.
He's hilarious.
He is the tone of the movie at its best.
Okay.
He is the reason why I gave it 3, and I'm willing to give it that extra half star. The lead is really good, but it felt like I could hear the director telling her, okay, keep staring at the camera. And I could feel her still staring at the camera. There were some other characters, like her co-workers, that don't fully fit in, where they're trying to be this different tone.
Jeremy Allen White?
Jeremy Allen White appears.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's good. He doesn't need any time because he's Jeremy Allen White.
Yeah.
That's almost like a last-minute pickup I feel that they were able to get. But it is a good movie. As someone who suffers from insomnia, I related a lot to like the character not being able to go to sleep or having trouble getting the help to be able to go to sleep. Mind you, I wasn't a translator who has PTSD because I was in Afghanistan.
Right. Yeah.
And people probably didn't want us to be involved, but I've seen a lot of people resonate with this movie. I wanted to resonate with me more if they would have kept the same comedy levels, but it felt like every different actor was trying to reach the level of dry humor. And they all had different levels of it. Once you guys see it, I'd be excited to talk more about it.
Interesting. All right, so let's talk about Mami Wata, the World Cinema Dramatic Special Jury Award winner for cinematography. And I think you only need to see a couple images from this to get a good picture of how striking looking of a movie it is. I didn't get around to it, but the film follows Zinwe, who's forced to confront her spiritual destiny when visiting her late grandmother's village. This is a Nigerian film. It's predominantly in Igbo. Arturo, what did you think about Mami Wata?
We were trying to break down what were all of the black and white films of this year. Divinity would have been the other one. This one easily, in terms of just the lighting that you have to shoot for black and white on set skin tones, was beautiful. I don't know as much of the folktales to be able to tell you like how intricate they got into it. We've also had some, I want to say Indonesian movies where we were noticing some biblical things, but not all of them.
Right.
I'm a little bit more far removed from this, so I'd be curious to see more people's interpretations of it. But it was a really interesting movie to follow along. This is in the next category, or is it World Dramatic?
World Dramatic.
All right. It wasn't my favorite out of there, but again, not something that I'm as up to date with in terms of the lore.
You felt the distance, I guess, maybe.
A little bit, but that's not on. I mean, that's not on the movie. That's on me.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
All right, so that's Mami Wata, which won for Best Cinematography. Let's talk about a completely different film. Landscape with Invisible Hand. This is one of the ones that I think I had high up on my most anticipated list because it comes from director Corey Finley, the boy, previous Intercut guest for his film Bad Education, also directed Thoroughbreds. This one is about two teenagers, one an artist and the other recently homeless, who come up with a plan to help their families after an occupying alien race takes over the human economy. A very different style of alien invasion movie than I think we've normally gotten, in that there's no sort of like violent takeover here. It's just sort of a very gentle takeover of every aspect of modern life.
Yeah.
Beautiful metaphor.
A really effective metaphor for
right?
class and the shifting economy. And I think there's just a lot of really interesting elements that are in this film. I really responded to it. I don't think everybody really responded to it.
How much did you like it? You keep confusing us how much you like it.
Yeah, because you keep talking about it like you're giving it a 4, 4.5, and you're a 3.5. And
I
I was
just
was
am
about where
modest
I was.
in my ratings. I don't want to like
He is modest in his
throw
ratings.
out a 5-star every now and then.
But what connected with you? That's what I need to know.
I mean, I think just the way that it sort of has this commentary about the commodification of everyday life. Because it's not just people who are trying to find jobs. They're turning the human experience into a way to make money, which is also reflective of what we're doing. But
without aliens.
It's pushed to the next degree and pushed to like really disturbing, intimate situations.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a really clever extension of like what is going on and how like I don't know. I also really respond to the idea of this artist character at the center of it.
Yeah, I do.
And
like that.
the commitment to making art despite these different capitalist pressures coming from on top and trying to change his integrity. And I don't know.
How do you feel about it being an MGM movie produced at the Acura?
How do you feel about Glass Onion being produced by Netflix? I mean, I think the people are trying to sneak their messages in there whatever way they can, even if it is got this big budget behind it.
I think my issue, or where this started losing it for me, is that it's another one of those ones that, like, I like the setup, don't like the direction they ended up taking.
That's what it's got to be. I like everything you
'Cause
said. There's the movie.
To me, it's when I don't want to spoil it, but like a lawsuit happens, and that's where, to me, I was like, I'm now no longer. I'm a little bit out of this. This isn't the direction I thought it was going to go.
It's way goofier than I thought it was.
I really thought they were going to commit to the whole like commodification of like the human experience, and
I wanted them to go a little bit deeper.
I wanted them to go way deeper.
It does,
but I wanted
in a weird way.
In a weird way, and I wanted it to go deeper in the way that it's set up. It goes goofy.
I had put down when we were talking about what are like the best categories in movies, and there was a VFX one, and I was like, well, this has VFX. I put it on there. I go to look at it, and Zach goes, absolutely, LOL, no.
I like this movie. The effects aren't exactly amazingly good. If you want to talk about the character design, I think the character design is really funny and like works for this film.
Yes,
but they don't have the money to make it work.
Yeah, they don't have the money. It's not out yet. It already aged. Like it's that. Oh dear! But everything Zach said, he's right about it.
Yeah.
If only there was like a book that I can read and maybe covers it better.
No, I think it's a short story.
Is it a short story?
It's a short, as far as I'm aware.
So
I don't actually think.
or something.
I think this had the chance to. I think this had the chance to make it better, and it just went in the same direction. And I do really appreciate kind of like his artistic thing, and you know, cause like
they showed the art. They showed the art, which was as we were talking with another movie, showing the thing that you're hyping up. Sometimes they want to hide it. I like that it was almost like chapters for the movie.
It also ended up being a really effective form of exposition.
Yes.
In that they kind of introduce you to the film through this art.
Yeah, and I loved it. That was great.
It's great. I think there are points where maybe they do a bit of over-explaining, particularly in the beginning when they're trying to set you up into the world. I think you could have maybe just sort of like experienced the world a bit. But I think there's a pretty clear vision for like what has happened to this society. What are they dealing with in the face of this economic collapse? And I just thought all that stuff was really interesting. Yeah.
Tiffany Haddish has a funny scene, but after putting up with something with another species, I would have smacked that species that is your own when that scene happened.
Yeah.
But Landscape, I'm excited to check out the book.
Landscape with Invisible Hand. That one will probably be out relatively soon as well. Let's talk about another sci-fi comedy of sorts. This one is Pod Generation. Maybe the production design is a little bit more favorable here. The film is about a couple, I should say. I don't think Chiwetel's that young that I can call him.
Chiwetel's young. He's a man.
Yeah, he's a man. A couple in a world run by artificial intelligence that decides to take their relationship to the next level by renting an artificial womb designed by a tech company in order to have a baby. Amanda, this was a day one movie for you, and you were pretty excited coming out of it.
Yeah.
What did you respond to in Pod Generation?
I liked it. I don't think it's perfect, and I see a lot of the issues people have with it, and I can agree with a lot of those, but I did really love this world that they've crafted, and I really feel like it is a logical continuation of where we would get where, you know, instead of this whole like, oh, we got to get out to like the country. It's like, why would we need to go to the country? Because everything's right here. We have our nature pods. We have all of this nature pods, you know, workplaces, kind of offering up things to help make your life more convenient, but in ways that kind of like takes away a certain humanity of things. But then you kind of end up in the debate of like, shouldn't people have the choice if they want to have the choice to kind of do things the other way? And I feel like we're actually right now dealing with the surrogate debate in a lot of areas, whether people think it's okay for you to like get somebody to be a surrogate to
designer babies.
Designer babies are like there's all sorts of issues like that. And
you ever heard that?
I don't want to know. Keep going.
Yeah, it's like it's like talked about in high school a bunch that you can get to the point that you can genetically control different aspects of your baby, and it's getting further and further along, and like you dial things in, eye color, hair color, just certain things. You don't know necessarily how it's going to come out.
There's a kind of funny moment in Pod Generation when they are asked if they want to know the sex of their baby.
Yeah.
They say, we will let nature handle it.
Yeah,
and the salesperson is just completely
She's
aghast.
just like, oh, what a unique choice. You know, like, what a weird thing.
Funny.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of
quite unusual.
Quite unusual. You know, I think there's a lot of really good moments. I can understand why some people just really aren't resonating with it, but I thought that Amelia and Tweedle both did really good in their roles. I like that he's kind of like this traditionalist. He's a botanist, and nobody can believe why he wants to still be around actual plants and trees and stuff. So it's kind of both taking a look at this evolving work landscape and how women would operate in a futuristic workspace, but also just how society has like changed so fundamentally around like what we value and like what we don't. I don't necessarily think it lands the ending perfectly well, but I do just love this world that they crafted and a lot of the different aspects of it. And obviously it was like the second movie I saw, so sometimes like when you start off early, like you don't have things have not trumped it yet. I think now it might be a little bit lower, but I still really like it. It's unique.
Well, you're also putting it up against like past lives.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, I saw this day one. I saw this after. Sometimes I think about dying. It made me laugh more, so I was just kind of like,
Good movie.
I've heard a lot of people, doing the Black Mirror thing, and I feel like just like we have rom-coms. Oh, do you want to see a rom-com? Yeah, I'm kind of feeling one. This has become the new bit. Do you want to see a story that we've seen a dozen times, but it's got that Black Mirror edge reminding you about what technology has done? Yeah, let's remind ourselves that we're human. It suffices in that bit. Yeah, it was decent.
Yeah, the movie that I thought of, and this is like an unfair comparison because that movie is really great, is Her.
Oh,
The movie's really great.
You say Her, you can't. There's nothing compared.
But the thing about Her is that it feels so much like a logical extension of where we are, and I think the thing that made me feel a little bit of a distance with Pod Generation is it didn't necessarily feel like this is where AI will go. This is like a artist interpretation of how AI already controls us, right? And like even the way that like the little Alexa of their thing was like an eyeball on a desk. Like nobody would do that electively. It's so creepy.
So it's like they have someone on set who was like, this is exactly what it would be, and then the production designer went, no! The art department was like, we need eyes, there is a visual here. I feel you.
They were testing those eyes they were testing. So like, no, that could have just been like, nobody told them this was
I can't believe it even passed the first round.
And they hated it. That's what I mean. They're testing it and they hate it. She hates the little eye.
Yeah.
But even in their home, they have Elena who like wakes up and she's sassy. If you don't respect Elena, she doesn't respect you.
Right. And like some of it's fun, but it's a little quirky and a little less like, this feels like a weird, distant future. But it's interesting, and the production design's really good. The performances are good.
Yeah.
I wish maybe it had gone a bit deeper, but it's
not a bad movie.
Yeah, not a bad movie by any means. Let's talk about one that maybe we're a bit divided on, but I think it's one that we were really excited to see as well. Jamojaya. This one directed by Justin Chon and stars notably Brian Emmanuel in his film debut, playing a character somewhat close in some ways to his life. It's an Indonesian rapper with a rising career in the U.S. who hires a new manager and label to take over from his previous manager, his father. The film predominantly plays out over the course of a few days, of 1 week really, in Hawaii when his father comes to visit as he's trying to launch a new album and film a new music video, and it becomes this kind of like hectic collision of competing influences and competing voices on his shoulder. The voice of his father trying to keep him true to his roots, and the voice of the managers and the labels trying to change him and make him into their own vision. I think Justin Chon has this really dynamic style that he films basically all of his movies with. They're shot on film. The camera has these quick movements that really make you feel like you're part of the chaos of these scenes unfolding. But the film itself ends up sort of hitting a central climax and kind of repeating that climax over and over. There's sort of one debate happening in the film, and it happens over and over and over again. And even when it feels like it's been resolved, it just starts up again later.
Yeah. That was probably the most frustrating part for it. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Justin Chon's previous work. I've liked him when he's acted in front of his movies as well. Justin Chon's got some really good Sundance hits under his belt. He hasn't surpassed Gook yet. And that's probably the biggest worry that I have, because for here, he says he wants to span out to different Asian ethnicities.
Yeah.
Because this is Indonesian, Rich Brian had to take the entire script, rewrite it himself.
Yeah.
Who's the director? Who's the screenwriter on it? I'm all for the collaboration, but it really does feel like a Justin film. And then an elongated Rich Brian music video. You know when you're watching a music video? You just sent me the one that he did for Sundance. Yeah. It's a whole bit at the beginning, and you know that we're just waiting for the music to drop. A lot of this feels like a very atmospheric, like just waiting for the music to drop.
And I almost feel like maybe it would have been a better film if they had those breaks for music sequences.
I thought they were going to go a little deeper because they have moments where they're talking about this parable of a tree, and I'm like, oh, we're going to get into some creative stuff.
No.
not fully.
No, it's also it's one of those ones that we talked about past lives feeling very personal and it being her story. This is one it's like it feels like it is his story, and then he gets to the end, he's like, "No, my relationship with my father is great.
So
my label relationship is great.
That's
so
the
this
other
is
thing.
just a story they wanted to tell. It just too things
That's
just got too
so
mixed.
confusing to
I
me.
felt like
I know.
Why?
I had to correct people.
I felt like all the scenes that were in Indonesian were a lot stronger and they
Yes.
felt a lot more personal. And then you have all these scenes that are in English involving the label, involving the manager, and they just felt so impersonal. So
kind of like a music video where you need to really express how dramatic
Yeah.
something is in a short period of time, so everybody is heightened.
But they shouldn't feel like recreations of bad business moments that he had, and that's what it felt like.
And
Sorry,
that's not
but
what it was.
yeah, Henry Ian Cusick did not feel like a record producer. He felt like the angry man yelling at him.
Exactly.
Anthony Kiedis was alright.
Yeah.
He felt like he didn't want to be there. It didn't look like he wanted to be there.
Yeah.
But hey, it's shot on 35?
I think it was 35, yeah.
It looked beautiful. We were really up close because we were taking pictures with Rich Brian.
Yeah.
It looked fantastic. I just wish the story hit a little bit better. There are moments there. It just didn't fully do it.
I think I liked it a little bit more than you guys, but I agree it does get just very repetitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really liked his father in the film.
I was just gonna say that. Yeah.
Yayu Iw Unru, I thought was really strong.
No, he was fantastic.
And Brian was really strong in the Indonesian scenes. I think maybe he suffered from the writing as well in the English scenes.
Yeah.
But when he was asked to go to a place of anger, I thought he was actually effective.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about the Persian version, which took home the U.S. Dramatic Audience Award. I think a lot of us were surprised by that because it's a category that has films like Theater Camp in it, films like Maggots and Dreams in it, films that got a lot of hype. This film was a lot more understated, at least in terms of Twitter reactions, Letterboxd reactions, but it didn't just pick up an audience award. It picked up the Waldo Salt Screenwriting Award as well. The Persian version is about a large Iranian-American family that gathers for the patriarch's heart transplant when a family secret is uncovered and they dive into the family's past. Amanda, what did you think about the Persian version?
It feels like it should have been a mini-series. There's so much random stuff going on in this that it starts one direction, pivots to like 3 other ones by the time the movie's done. And it's like, it ends up feeling too long, whereas if they had taken if this has just been like a 4 or 5 episode miniseries, it probably would have been able to keep that energy up where it needed to be. This is another one. I have to assume that this is kind of a reflection of the director's life.
Yeah. Feels very autobiographical.
Yeah, it feels very autobiographical, and some of it's really fun for that, and then some of it I was like, oh, what are you doing? No, why? I don't like that. But it's got a lot of flair. It's got a lot of interesting dynamic of what it's like to be born in one country that is very Muslim, very traditional, but then also being in America, where it's like the polar opposite, and kind of growing up in an era.
She talks about not being. She talks about not being Iranian enough for Iranians, but not being
American enough for Americans enough.
Yeah,
Iranian enough. Then what I want.
Yeah, so it's like one of those that disconnect and that split, and how that affects kind of like how you grow up, and then
I liked it.
I did. No,
I know.
I do like it.
I was telling this to Zach. I was like, it's one of those movies where you have someone really trying to tell their story.
Mm-hmm.
They may not have the greatest costume designers, cinematographers, and editors on hand, or someone who could really trim the story down a bit. They won awards, so I don't know. I guess they're doing something right. But I liked the heart that was in there. I liked the relationship between the mother and the daughter, seeing the reflections of themselves in it. But there are some over the top stuff. Like there's a partner in the movie. Yeah, I ain't care for it.
That's what I mean.
Like I'm here. I'll defend parts of the movie, but that was so it was borderline stupid.
I know.
That it has to
did it have to be real?
It has to have been real.
But then that's even more confusing. Like what? What do you mean you did that? How did that even happen?
But just in terms of that story of immigrant parents and their children taking on that mantle, it was decent enough, but nowhere compared to something like Joyland or the other movies that we had. But I'm not upset that it won. It's just one of those where you feel bad, where it's like, this is the worst thing that could have happened to the movie.
Right.
Yeah. That's fair.
I don't know. To me, I felt like it was really all over the place. Like even the narrative momentum, I felt like I had trouble getting in with it because it just
post everything everywhere all at once. Do you worry that that's going to be the new thing? Not just being able to hop on to different things?
I do think so, because it's not easy to shift tones that quickly in a film, and especially jumping back and forth through time like that. It's a little just like it's a little. Which story are you trying to tell? And I didn't feel like they were focused in on enough on
Yeah.
one story. They were just trying to pack in a lot of
trying
stuff
to
here.
do them both, but I see
Yeah.
what you mean. Like they didn't land it perfectly
Yeah.
for it, but I see what they were going for.
Yeah.
So the script, I guess, makes sense. They must have had a really good script.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see.
All right. Let's talk about Birth, Rebirth. This is a film about a single mother and a childless morgue technician that reanimate a
Yes.
little girl from the dead. I think it's a really smart idea for a horror
Yes.
film. I don't think I've ever seen, Frankenstein's monster as a baby.
Yeah.
But this film goes there and does pretty interesting things with it. I don't know if it's the most satisfying horror movie, but there's some cool elements to it.
Very cool elements.
What'd you respond to it?
I think it's pretty much I think the elements are so strong, and I get exactly why every character does what they do. You got one person who's just a creepy weirdo scientist trying to do some creepy weirdo science stuff, and you have a mom who's just desperate to believe something being true that will never be true. Like, kid died of meningitis. That is your brain swells, and it's there's nothing there. That kid's gone.
Coming back.
The kid's not coming back. But there was so many little things that were unsettling, like it not being able to handle silence anymore, so it needed to constantly have some kind of stimulation going on. If you left it alone for too long, it would get violent because all the impulse control's gone. Just so creepy and horrific, and then some really weird stuff though, the bathroom.
Well, I mean, this is the film that somewhat notably got shut down, at least at one of its Sundance
Always
screenings.
in Salt Lake where somebody knocks out because they were
I
so
wasn't that
gross.
bad.
Well, here's the thing. If I could spoil a little bit
Is it the
of
arm?
it. Birth, Rebirth is the story of a doctor who realizes that she can have a cycle going on where she can continue to make, let's call it, a fountain of youth serum.
Yeah.
And it's in that process that she could do by herself to advance life that I could see someone being very disgusted by it.
Yeah, but I don't know if that's when they went. They said it was during one of the more disturbing scenes. I think the only thing, I don't know, there's something with an arm.
I guess.
But I can't imagine where it would actually, I don't think it was that.
The premise
It's
is
not the movie
grotesque.
It is
It's
a grotesque
fantastic.
premise.
But the characters have to be the absolute dumbest characters possible, and that's where you just lose it.
Yeah.
Well, I know that it's way too over the top, but if you're gonna do an over the top premise, then you need the straight characters.
Yeah.
They just didn't have that. The mom was just like, "Oh, this is a crazy thing that you did. What's next?"
Yeah.
But what
Like
would a mother do though? What would a mother do if the kid was there and breathing in front of you? And if you got two options, you're either
sure.
this is horrific, I'm shutting this down,
For
or
sure.
maybe there's a slight chance.
There is a slight chance. You ain't making deals with the lady who just did all this
I
before.
think-
Yeah, no, that's true. I agree.
I think they kind of tried to have it both ways with the characters, in that we were introduced to the Judy Reyes character as more of the reasonable one, and we're introduced to Maren Ireland's characters more of the out there one. And then at a certain point, the
That's
plot
one way to put it.
and at a certain point, the plot asks them to sort of flip their
Yeah.
roles in there, and
Yes.
I don't feel like the characters felt specific enough to buy that flip, right?
Fair enough.
And that's maybe when the movie goes off the rails a little bit, but there's still some really cool stuff happening.
Yeah, it's a really cool title. The poster's also really awesome.
Mhm.
So it's it may not be the best horror movie, but it's one to catch if you're with a group and you wanted to see who's going to be the first to knock out.
And it's interesting. I like the concept.
It
is
is
interesting.
I hate how dumb the characters are.
That's fair.
Let's move on to Animalia, the World Cinema Dramatic Special Jury Award winner for Creative Vision. I knew you knew that one. This film is about a young pregnant woman slowly adapting to her husband's religious family in Morocco when she finds freedom after an alien invasion sends the country into a state of emergency. I'm hiccuping from the Mike's Hard Lemonade. Anyway, I think the premise has this has this promise of something that's maybe a little more chaotic than what we get. It's a much slower, more patient movie. There's some interesting ideas in there, particularly related to faith and how people handle their faith when confronted with something that is otherworldly, right? I just think that it doesn't necessarily go a lot of places with that, and it takes a while to get there. For a feature length, I think I just wanted a little more in there.
Had a really good dog actor.
Yeah,
I like the dog actor.
very good doggo.
The dog actor was really good. But I will say, in terms of you read the description without getting into too much spoilers, with her coming into her own, I think it's also important to know that Animalia, I don't know where the name comes from, because Parmi Nos translates to Among Us, and that's the title that they have at
didn't
the
want
end.
to do Among Us. They
But
didn't
I
want to do
assume
it.
you couldn't do Among Us.
Mm-hmm.
But that changes this idea of the.
You know, they are Among Us or something.
Yes, maybe.
No, they still would have
But
gotten torched.
They still would have
gotten
gotten
torched.
Among Us is, dude, come on. That wasn't a freaking Knives Out movie. And so at this point, like, yeah, I feel bad that they had to change the name because I think that helps with what the point of the movie is about. That it's not necessarily the external forces, but the internal forces that push it.
Amongst us.
no, something with an ET for the extraterrestrial.
Yeah.
All right, let's round out the genre section with a couple of the films that I think
Get
were
your favorite.
Some letdowns. We'll talk about In My Mother's Skin first. This is from the midnight section. The film is about the film takes place in the Philippines during World War II, where a young girl struggles to protect her mother after trusting a mysterious flesh-eating fairy. There's some interesting things here, and I think particularly like there are some images that are created that are very haunting. It takes a very long time to get to those images, and the
pacing's not great.
You see, the pacing's really not too strong, and it's also just beyond the pacing issues. Like it's so prolonged. There's so many long shots where you know exactly what's going to happen, and you're just sort of waiting for that moment. Plus, as you were saying, I just feel like it didn't justify how mean it was to a lot of its characters.
Exactly.
It is mean. The kills are
so
crazy.
mean.
Yeah.
Which is maybe a positive for some.
Some of them are interesting.
But
And
the people who want those kills aren't going to be here waiting.
They're not going to have the patience for this
No.
movie,
and it's just more the spirit behind it is mean. Like, there's some of these kills that are, like, really cool, but it's like, that is so mean. And then it, there's nothing.
Yeah.
It's just
What did
mean.
that person do to deserve it? Yeah.
There's a lot of symbolism. You were noticing some, be it either biblical stuff or just this idea of a virgin birth.
I assume there's probably some Filipino folklore in it that we're just unaware of. Maybe,
so it's like that's another example of something where it's just like I'm curious to know the symbolism in there that would give me a better appreciation for it. So nonetheless, it's a cool poster, cool kills, but it's a 98 movie that felt like a 2-hour movie. I think that's what we all said.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Let's talk about another film from the midnight section
This
that was a
one was actually-
letdown. I think we were excited.
This is a real letdown.
Yeah.
The other one was like, not for us.
I'm just so mad that the link expired. I was like, this is my last midnight, and I was like, just saving it for today, and no.
All right, Run Rabbit Run, the film about a fertility doctor forced to deal with her young daughter's increasingly strange behavior. Art, you're the only one of us that actually got to check this one out.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, you guys were out. We were going to show up when you opened the garage with those masks on as you guys pulled in.
Great.
This stars Sarah Snook as this mother who is realizing that her baby daughter kind of wants to be her aunt, this sister she never really knew, and she's really confused. Is this rebirth all over again? Is there something more sinister that happened in their childhood? And you see it come. Alina guessed it, and then little by little, you easily start like seeing the pieces.
Yeah.
And even if you're late to it, you go, "Oh, that's what it was."
Oh, okay.
That's what it was. It's one of those.
Yeah.
And
Gotcha.
it just does a lot of repeating. I swear it was like watching a football game where they gave you the instant replay, but it's after something like, Don't Worry Darling, someone falls off a roof and then they like reverse it and you're like, that's the goofiest thing I've seen. They do that in the most emotional scene in this movie. This one's also very mean in the way that it's showing a lot of torture and torment, only for it to not sometimes mean anything. Look, Sarah Snook is great. She was not the best Succession star who had a movie this year, but if you're going to see something that kind of deals with an element of this type of storytelling, Predestination. It's not close. I'm not ruining either movie for you. Just letting you know that this is a better movie to watch in case you wanted some sort of thriller. I was a little disappointed. I was rooting for her. I really was.
Can't all be winners.
Don't have to be that bad either. But at least it wasn't as bad as whatever Zach's about to mention.
Let's try to re-up the link.
All right, we got two more to get to here. Let's talk first about Bad Behaviour. It's the film directed by Alice Englert, part of the subjects of the Nepo Baby article. Her mother, Jane Campion, does...
Jane freaking Campion.
Makes a cameo in this one. Don't know if that makes this one worth watching because I really don't know what to make of this movie. That is tonally all over the place.
Yeah.
A very bizarre film. The movie is about a former child star played by Jennifer Connelly who seeks enlightenment at a spiritual retreat while navigating a troubled relationship with her daughter. The daughter, played by Alice Engler, the director.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I don't know about this one. It's like partly introspective drama that just has these like accents of crazed hysteria that feel completely out of nowhere. I just felt like there was no tonal or character consistency to be found anywhere within this project. I'm just really like at a loss to even what I'm supposed to take away from this film.
I agree.
It's like
And
one
I
of
think
the
I
five.
liked it a little more than you.
It's one of the 5 that I'm missing, and they said no.
No,
Y'all said no.
don't.
It's like,
How do you go from Beautiful Creatures to this?
I don't know. Like you're just watching it and you're trying to wait for it to hit a point where you think it's doing, and it just like doesn't ever come, and then
No.
I heard there was an animated sequence.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
So it's kind of like a hallucinatory thing going on.
So it lost me there too. I just don't like hallucinations.
Mama was on set and she didn't say anything?
She should have.
Mama,
Power of
this
the daughter.
Nepo. That's what I'm saying. That's why I need
It's
sometimes.
Nepo.
Sometimes it's good Nepo. The Skarsgårds are good Nepo.
Right.
Like,
They're great Nepo,
they're great
yes.
Nepo.
Oh, damn. Well, I look forward to it. This action, comedy, drama, thriller could not pick a genre.
All right, let's wrap this up with Onyx the Fortuitous and the Talisman of Souls.
Oh.
Popular internet character Onyx the Fortuitous joins a group of occultists at the mansion of their idol in order to perform a dark ritual. This film, in the midnight section of Sundance, comes from writer, director, and star Andrew Bowser, adapting his immensely popular internet character of the same name for a feature-length film. Not just feature-length, 110 minutes long.
Hey, not just 110 minutes
It's
long,
so
bro.
long.
Onyx 2 in the works.
In the
for sure.
It
works.
is-
Sequel teased at the end of the movie.
It's disgustingly long. Like, I don't care how you what your takeaway is, and if you enjoyed it, this movie has no business being this long. It's not good.
It's not good.
It's not good.
Andrew Bowser will be on the podcast later to discuss all the hidden Easter eggs and the. Hey, look, it's not a great movie. I'm proud of seeing a YouTuber here.
We already had 2 YouTubers here, and they made a great movie. It's called Talk to Me. He's not a YouTuber. He's a TikTok guy.
Actually, no, it's
He's
actually
got
way in
everything.
there. No, it turns
He's-
out he like worked for like some studios and stuff, and he did like cutouts and stuff.
That
So
makes it worse,
it's
man.
it's
That makes it
technically the
fucking
complete
worse.
opposite of a
That
YouTuber.
makes it
Yeah.
worse.
You know what?
He's on
don't know.
YouTube. He's on YouTube, but I didn't think that's where he grew his platform. I thought he grew it on short form content.
I thought it was YouTube, but I don't
I could be
really
wrong.
know.
I think
Maybe
he
we're all
tweeted
crazy.
it out, and he said, "Follow me, leave me 5 stars."
No, that was that
Look,
part was on YouTube.
Talisman of Souls is a very annoying character that if you follow him and you're cool with that accent, you're going to get answers to like certain things that I guess he's had in his lore for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know
That's
any
fun.
of that.
That's
Literally, I
fun.
don't
If
know.
you're a fan and like you're into the shtick, like
As
you might
someone
walk
who
away really
doesn't-
enjoying it.
They kickstarted this movie into existence, and look, it got made.
There it
Yeah,
is.
and I've even seen some people saying that they did kickstart it and they didn't like the movie. I just think that this is kind of the equivalent of like a character. If you had a comedy and your main characters walked by some like weird magician on the side of the street,
Right.
and then somebody would punch him, and that would be the extent of it. That's that character, but a whole movie about him. It's like you get like.
You just wanted him punched.
It's like the camera gets punched and you're suddenly following him around and you're not following the main characters you were just with, but you're just, and it's kind of, there's moments that are okay and I can kind of handle it, but then at one point literally he just says like, I have to take a fat shit.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
There are people for whom this will work. I think it's to me it's like the worst type of internet comedy, like the absolute depths of
I'm
internet
not-
It's
humor.
the bass player from School of Rock. What is she doing in this movie?
yeah, they disrespected
Oh,
them in
Bar-
School of Rock too, so they went
Barbara
back for round
Crampton is
2.
in this. I think the reason this really got made was because Olivia Taylor-Dudley has a huge fan base. It ended up being a key story and like a lot of things. So clearly that must have helped out.
Yeah.
We will be there for the premiere, midnight premiere in 2025 for Onyx and the extra
Yeah.
Fortuitous and the Talisman of
Extra souls.
Goons. I don't know.
my least favorite movie I've ever seen at a Sundance Film Festival.
Yeah, I do think you put it best though. It honestly just feels like a Nickelodeon movie where they are like talking about sex and dropping F-bombs.
Yeah.
It feels like everything about this is geared at children except for like the language and the subject matter, and then it's like, well, now it is kind of the thing that if you're 12 you're gonna be like, ho, 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 ho.
Honestly, Fortuitous. It'll be online on YouTube probably very soon.
YouTube.
Practicals are cool.
But like, you know what? Good job getting it made.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
I don't have a
something.
movie.
Yeah, exactly. That can speak to. He's got something we don't. I don't know. I can't even.
Some puppeteering
I can't
stuff.
even
What,
pretend.
some puppeteering work in there was
Yeah.
nice. The puppets were nice.
Sure.
Yeah, like the little like.
And then he,
was,
like-
made out of meat.
That's
He looked
fun.
really real.
Yeah, that's fun.
Sure.
The music video homage.
No, it didn't earn it.
He got that cleared. That's a big deal.
Didn't earn it. Same thing with Beetlejuice. Didn't earn it.
Are we sure he cleared?
Honestly, there was some stuff in some Sundance movies. I was like, yeah, I can clear that.
Yeah. All right. That's basically everything in the genre section. We did not get around to seeing
One movie. Yeah.
Rotting in the Sun, the new film from Sebastian Silva.
We're
who-
supposed to see it today.
He's a filmmaker that I particularly like, but I think Art has a not so great history with his.
It's not even
films.
love hate, it's just hate.
And then we saw a Sundance article, like not like a reviewer or something, like a
Worse, from Sundance
from
themselves.
Sundance, calling the lead of the film daringly annoying, and I think that was a little too much to get Art in the door.
Yeah. And we had tickets.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
They said that this was like the record number of penises shown in the
Yeah,
film.
I was gonna say.
There was some stories.
Unsimulated sex scenes.
Yeah, Cronenberg's getting shown up around the block
Right.
this festival apparently.
Yeah, so I guess there's that.
We'll get around to it eventually, but not in time for this genre recap of the must-watch films from the Sundance Film Festival. So those are a lot of our favorites from horror, from comedy, from sci-fi, of the new films to see at Sundance. We'll be back for more of this recap to talk about the best documentaries from the Sundance Film Festival.
That's all the narratives, bro.
Yeah.
Woo!
We did it.
The camera
Yeah.
there. Woo!
Yeah. Air five.
Air five.
Boom. We did it.
Oh.
We managed it. And it only took a few hours.
Yeah, and a couple talismans of souls, but other than that,
Yeah.
we made it.
So that's it for this edition of the recap. Stick with us for the next part of it. And until next time, do we have a theater camp quote?
Lay off the stick.